To save the female CEO, I fell into the sea and lost my memory. She voluntarily married me as a way to repay me. But after we got married, her heart always longed for her long-lost first love. Now, with news about that first love, she hurriedly handed me 5 million yuan and said, "I found him. Let's get a divorce." Just as I was about to kneel down and plead, I suddenly regained my memory. It turned out that I was the sole heir of a prominent family, and I had an equally well-matched fiancée who had been promised to me since childhood. At that moment, Hannah Vance handed me the divorce agreement. "Sign it. This money is enough for you to spend your whole life." After saying that, she rushed out without looking back. After decisively signing the divorce papers, I picked up my phone and dialed a number. "Hello. Do you know who I am?" As soon as I finished speaking, the woman on the other end replied, "Are you crazy? How would I know who you are?" I raised an eyebrow. "You can't even recognize my voice?" "It's me, Isla. Are you unable to pick up the phone, or have you become arrogant?" The woman on the other end fell silent for 2 seconds and then suddenly shouted, "Kai-hun, you're still alive." Then her tone turned sour. "Missing for 2 years without a word. I thought you had run off with some girl." I didn't respond to her, but simply ordered, "I've sent my location to your phone. Come pick me up." The next morning, as I stepped out of the villa, a sparkling diamond-studded Ferrari drove up. A stunning blonde with blue eyes stepped out of the driver's seat, moving in to hug me, but I coldly pushed her away and went straight to open the car door. Isla stomped her foot in anger. "You heartless man! I flew all night from America to get here, and this is how you treat me." I glanced at her indifferently. "Let's go." After saying that, I looked back at the place I had lived for the past 2 years. I didn't belong here, just as Hannah Vance had never belonged to me. Yet I had played the weakling here for 2 years. Now that I finally regained my memory, I should also find out who had harmed me, causing my injury and memory loss back then. 2 days later, Hannah Vance returned to the villa. As soon as she went upstairs, she locked herself in her bedroom. "Wrong information. That man is not her first love," she mumbled. "What a wasted trip." At that moment, a servant knocked and entered, handing her the divorce agreement. "Miss, the boss has signed and left." When he left, he took nothing with him, not even the bank card you gave him. Hannah Vance frowned. This man doesn't know how to do anything and has no money on him. 9 out of 10 chances he wants to pretend to be pitiful to gain sympathy. Hannah Vance thought, "I need to quickly finalize the divorce procedures to avoid any trouble later." Just as the servant left, her assistant, Dylan, walked in. "Miss Hannah, Mr. Quentin has come back." Hannah Vance looked displeased. She thought to herself, "This man really isn't easy to divorce." Dylan shook her head. "No, it's not that. A reporter caught Mr. Quentin and the heiress of the American tycoon, Isla, going in and out of a hotel all night." Hannah Vance's expression darkened. "He knows Isla? No wonder he didn't need the money you gave him. It turns out he's had a backing all along." Hannah Vance's mood, which was already bad, became even more irritable. She called her best friend, Liang Wen, to meet at a bar. Meanwhile, in the capital Bata City, looking at the lineup of beautiful women in front of me, I smiled contentedly. Isla was discussing matters in the VIP room upstairs, worried I might get bored waiting. So, she had invited a few friends to keep me company. I swirled my drink and asked, "How old are you this year?" The girls beside me laughed and replied, "I'm 23. I'm 21. I looked at Isla's friends, feeling very satisfied. Their beauty and figure surpassed Hannah Vance's by far. That girl could divorce me for her first love. Why shouldn't I enjoy life? I smiled and said to the girl sitting next to me, "How about you drink a toast with me? If you enjoy it, I'll gift you a sports car." The beautiful girl immediately poured me a drink and moved closer. "Cheers to you." Seeing my generosity, the other girls eagerly raised their glasses to toast me, competing to show off their skills to please me. At the same time, in the VIP room upstairs, Hannah Vance was drinking with Liang Wen. Liang Wen suddenly advised, "Vance, after searching for so many years, you should let it go." Hannah Vance had been looking for that man for 5 years. She was even offering a reward of $30 million online, but still had no news. Liang Wen knew Hannah Vance's capabilities. After searching for so long without finding that man, it was highly likely he was no longer around. But Liang Wen didn't dare say this in front of Hannah Vance. Hannah Vance said nothing, just down her drink. Liang Wen knew her well and didn't press further. changing the subject. Did Kai-hun really agree to the divorce? Everyone knew that 2 years ago, Kai-hun had fallen for Hannah Vance at first sight. Before they got married, he had pursued her relentlessly. Later, to deal with her family's pressure to marry, she registered to marry him. Kai-hun had gone to great lengths to please her, almost willing to give her his heart. With such love for Hannah Vance, how could he easily agree to a divorce? Something unusual must be going on. Hannah Vance thought about me and Isla going in and out of the hotel. Her expression turned cold. At that moment, Talia Nguyen suddenly pointed downstairs. That man down there? Why does he look so much like Kai-hun? Talia Nguyen rubbed her eyes. No way. How could Kai-hun be that handsome? Hearing this, Hannah Vance squinted in the direction she was pointing. In the VIP area, several beautiful young women were surrounding a man. He was sitting on the sofa, legs stretched out on the coffee table, lazily swirling a glass of red wine, exuding an air of noble indifference. A girl enthusiastically poured me a drink. I looked at her and smiled charmingly. Hannah Vance looked at the man downstairs, her heart racing. Could that be Kai-hun? Talia Nguyen confirmed several times, certain she wasn't mistaken. She widened her eyes, almost dropping her jaw. No way. Is it really him? And surrounded by so many beauties? What a strong allure. Hannah Vance looked at me, her eyes filled with frost. This man was photographed going in and out of a hotel with Isla, and now he dares to openly indulge in pleasure here. Kai-hun, you really are something. While I was happily chatting with the beautiful women, I keenly sensed a sharp gaze staring at me. I turned my head and saw a familiar figure walking toward me. I squinted slightly, intentionally curling my lips into a mocking smile. Hannah Vance pushed through the crowd and stood in front of me. You just signed the divorce papers and came out to party? Kai-hun, are you that eager? Life is short. Of course, one must enjoy it while they can. Hannah Vance stood high above, looking down at me with a cold expression. Talia stood behind her, softly saying, Vance, is he really going crazy because you abandoned him? I laughed. Miss Talia is joking. I spread my arms around the shoulders of the two beautiful girls beside me. Why would I abandon an entire forest for a bitch? Talia was taken aback. Did he just call Vance a bitch? Is this still the Kai-hun you know? Hannah Vance looked at me, her expression turning extremely unpleasant. At that moment, I was completely different from before. Facing her gaze, a spark of challenge flickered in my eyes. What's wrong, Miss Hannah? Do you think I'm wrong? I had to admit that this woman's face was indeed beautiful, exuding an unapproachable nobility. At this moment, she was looking at me with an indescribable, dangerous aura. Just then, a fat man stumbled over to my VIP seat, drunk. Oh, two beautiful girls fighting over a man? Why not come to me? I'll take care of you. Hannah Vance glanced at him, frowned, and stepped aside a few paces. The fat man moved toward me, directly pushing the beautiful girl beside me away. What's so great about a weak man like him? One slap, and he'll fly away. Immediately, a dirty hand swung toward me. A flash of murderous intent crossed my eyes. Just as the fat man's hand was about to touch my collar, I slapped him hard across the face in an instant. The fat man let out a wail, rolling on the ground in pain. You little brat! How dare you! I immediately kicked him in the stomach, sending him flying several meters away. Seeing this, the fat man's bodyguards rushed in to attack me. My eyes gleamed with bloody excitement as I quickly prepared to meet them. In less than 10 seconds, 4 or 5 bodyguards lay sprawled on the ground. Brushing off the dust from my clothes, I sat back down on the sofa, leisurely enjoying my drink. Next to me, Talia pointed at me, her face filled with disbelief. Kai-hun, you're that skilled in martial arts? No way. He used to look so refined. How did his martial prowess suddenly skyrocket like this? Could it be he was pretending to be refined before? Hannah Vance stared at me, the coldness in her eyes gradually fading, her red lips curling into an intriguing smile. It seems this ex-husband of mine is much more interesting than I thought. In 2 years of marriage, he always obediently listened to me. Just after the divorce, his personality completely changed. Moreover, those moves just now, why do they look so familiar? Hannah Vance squinted, a hint of suspicion flashing in her eyes. Noticing the beautiful girls standing aside, I waved my hand, flashing a charming smile. Why stand so far away? Come here and pour me a drink. Just as the girls were about to sit down, a cold glare suddenly shot over. It was Hannah Vance's icy gaze, causing the girls to tremble in fear. Offending the young lady of the Hannah family in the capital, it seemed their lives would be hard to protect. I glanced at her, pouting. Hannah Vance, ruining others' fun, how rude. Hannah Vance frowned, glaring at me. Kai-hun, we haven't officially divorced yet. Currently, a divorce requires a 1-month consideration period, meaning we can only officially file for divorce a month later. I scoffed. Hannah Vance, don't tell me you want to turn back. Hannah Vance sneered. You're overthinking it. I poured myself a glass of wine. Well then. Hannah Vance stared at the handsome, carefree man in front of her, puzzled about what had happened. 2 days ago, he had clung to her, crying and saying he didn't want a divorce. Now he seemed like a completely different person. What's your relationship with Isla? Hannah Vance questioned me. My business doesn't need to be explained to you, ex-wife. Ex-wife. Isla's surprised and aggrieved voice rang out. She stood not far away, pointing at Hannah Vance. Kai-hun, how dare you secretly marry this vixen behind my back? In an instant, Hannah Vance's eyes turned icy, and the atmosphere grew heavy. How dare she call her vixen? I shot Isla a murderous glance. Isla immediately tucked her tail and made a tongue-out gesture. Hannah Vance, a good ex-wife, should be considered dead. Hannah Vance was itching to hit someone. I couldn't be bothered with her anymore, waving my hand to call Isla. Let's go. Let's change places and continue having fun. Isla immediately followed. Hannah Vance stared at my retreating back, fury boiling in her eyes. Suddenly, a thought struck her. Why does he know Isla, an American, and their relationship seems so good? Hannah Vance's eyes flashed. Unless they knew each other beforehand. Talia, investigate Isla thoroughly for me. I want to know everything related to her and Kai-hun. Hannah Vance paused for a moment, adding, and Kai-hun's background too. Talia chuckled. Vance, why do I feel like you're the one who's been abandoned? Over there, I left Bataton and returned to the hotel right away. What I said about changing places to continue having fun was actually just to provoke Vance. On the way, Isla, while driving, kept bouncing around asking about my relationship with Vance. I couldn't stand it anymore and had to roughly explain that 2 years ago she saved my life, then we got married, and now she found her first love, so we're getting a divorce. She saved you. Isla looked at me in shock. It's always been Kai-hun saving others. I never expected you to be saved by someone else. My expression darkened. Someone hired assassins from the Hack Jia to hunt me down. Isla's face changed. Hack Jia is a notorious assassin organization in East Asia, brutal and reckless, made up of those who risk their lives for money. As long as you pay enough, they'll do anything. I recalled the danger I faced in the tropical forest 2 years ago, my eyes flashing with a dark light. Who the hell hired Hack Jia to put me in danger? Isla asked again. Have you found out who the mastermind is? I shook my head. I just regained my memory a few days ago. I haven't had time to start investigating. Isla said seriously. Give me 2 days, I'll investigate. I nodded, all right. Isla suddenly remembered something. Oh right, there's a bounty on the internet for catching you. The reward has reached $30 million. I raised an eyebrow. $30 million? Who's so generous to want my life? But since they seemed to want me alive, offering such a high price likely meant they needed me to save someone. I didn't pay much attention. There are many posts about me online, but hardly anyone dares to claim them. Returning to the hotel, I finished my personal hygiene and prepared to rest. Suddenly, I remembered something important. My jade pendant was still with Hannah Vance. 2 years ago, when I married Hannah Vance, I had given her that jade pendant as a wedding gift. At that time, I didn't realize its significance, and now, recalling those memories, I regretted it to the point of feeling a sharp pain in my gut. How could I casually give away something so important? Without it, working from now on would be very inconvenient. Therefore, I had to get my jade pendant back. The next day, Talia went to Ha Corporation early in the morning to find Hannah Vance. All the information that can be found about Kai-hun is here. Hannah Vance opened the documents that had been brought to her. Inside were only a few lines of notes. Is this all there is? Talia shrugged helplessly. His information seems to be encrypted. Apart from the basic details, nothing else can be accessed. Kai-hun's information is encrypted. Hannah Vance, immediately frowned. This was completely unexpected for her. A normal person wouldn't do that. Hannah Vance stared at the document in her hand, her eyes flashing with a cold light. Just then, Dylan knocked on the door and entered. Mr. Kai. He's here. Before Dylan could finish her sentence, I walked in with a strong presence. Hannah Vance looked at me, her gaze briefly showing a hint of surprise that was hard to detect. Talia looked at me, recalling my exploits in Bat City the previous night, and instinctively took a step back. I ignored her and walked straight up to Hannah Vance. Give me back my jade pendant. Hannah Vance stared at I, her demeanor completely different from before, and she instinctively swallowed. Which jade pendant? I scoffed coldly. I knew Hannah Vance would definitely forget. I remember when I gave you the jade pendant, you didn't even bother to look at it, just casually tossed it on the table. When we got married, I gave you a jade pendant. My voice was icy. Hannah Vance tried to recall. It seems that did happen. 2 years ago, when you saved me, that jade pendant was around your neck, with your name engraved on it. Hannah Vance leaned back in her chair, evaluating I. Did you come to see me just to get that jade pendant back? I crossed my arms. What else would it be? Hannah Vance replied. You don't think I'm here begging to get back together, do you? Hannah Vance stared at I coldly. That would be the worst. I silently laughed bitterly. Don't worry, I will never beg to get back together. Right now, I just want to be a stranger to you. Begging to get back together? Maybe in the next life. I don't have the spare time to waste words with you here. I extended my hand again. Give me my jade pendant. I threw it away. My body stiffened. Threw it away? She actually threw my jade pendant away? Just because you gave it to me, do I have to keep it? I slammed my hand down on the table, my face turning pale with anger. Hannah Vance, where did you throw it? Hannah Vance remained indifferent. I forgot. I clenched my fists, a murderous intent rising within me. Hannah Vance keenly noticed the glint of sharpness in my eyes and found it even more interesting. Married for 2 years. This is the first time you've seen me so angry. We stared at each other for a moment, and then I suddenly laughed. Hannah Vance, I'm giving you 10 days. If you can't find my jade pendant, I will go to court to withdraw the divorce petition. During this 1-month consideration period for divorce, as long as one party does not agree to the divorce, they can withdraw the petition at any time from the Civil Affairs Bureau. Hannah Vance's expression immediately turned cold. She knew this man would not easily agree to a divorce. What jade pendant? It was definitely just an excuse. He had planned this from the start. My smile grew brighter. As long as I don't agree to the divorce, your first love will just be a third party, unable to hold their head high. Hannah Vance glared at I with resentment. She stood up and approached. Kai-hun, listen carefully. I must get a divorce. I laughed coldly. Then hurry up and find my jade pendant. If you can't find it, I will make the entire Hannah Corporation befriend Hannah Vance. This is the only chance I'm giving you. After saying that, I looked at her with a warning and quickly turned to leave. As soon as I stepped out of the office, I saw a man with dyed blonde hair walking toward I. Victor Tong, the young master of the Tong family, one of Hannah Vance's admirers. Since I married Hannah Vance, he had come to provoke I on several occasions. When Victor Tong saw I coming out of Hannah Vance's office, he was first stunned, then pointed at I and shouted, What are you doing here? What does it have to do with you? I replied irritably. In the past, I had restrained my personality, trying to be a good husband who listened to Hannah Vance. Every time Victor Tong caused trouble, I silently endured or avoided him if possible. But now, I had no intention of holding back anymore. Victor Tong didn't expect that I, who was usually weak and easy to bully, would dare to speak to him like that, and his face turned angry. Kai-hun, Hannah Vance has divorced you. Why are you still clinging to her? I smiled. Young Master Tong, Hannah Vance and I haven't completed the divorce procedures yet, so we are still legally married. Victor Tong rushed up to me, arrogantly pointing at my nose. So what if you're legally married? The one Hannah Vance likes isn't you. I waved my hand. Whether she likes me or not doesn't matter. What matters is that as long as I don't get divorced, I'm still her legitimate husband. Victor Tong exploded with rage. I've met many men like you who cling to their wives without wanting a divorce. Isn't it all for money? As he spoke, Victor Tong took a check out of his pocket and threw it at my face. This is $1 million. Take the money and get as far away as possible. I narrowed my eyes at the arrogant man, lazily picking up the check. $1 million. And you think I'll leave her for life? Victor Tong glared at me. What do you mean for life? I want you to stay away from Hannah Vance forever. You freeloader. $1 million, and you still think it's too little? I chuckled softly. Young Master Tong, you're only offering $1 million, and you dare to take it out? How embarrassing. I flicked my wrist, using the check to spin and fly out, the edge of the paper sharp as a blade, leaving a cut on Victor Tong's face. Victor Tong covered. I flicked my wrist, using the check to spin and fly out, the edge of the paper sharp as a blade, leaving a cut on Victor Tong's face. Victor Tong covered his face in pain, seeing his hand covered in blood. Kai-hun, you dare to cut my face? I'll kill you. I laughed coldly. Just you? 2 years ago, a pack of trained wild dogs in the tropical forest couldn't kill me, let alone you. Victor Tong was furious to the extreme, raising his hand as if to hit me. However, before his hand could touch me, I had already grabbed it tightly. Next came a crisp crack. Victor Tong let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered, and with a thud, he fell to his knees, his right arm twisted into an awkward position. My hand. I looked at Victor Tong kneeling on the ground, raised an eyebrow, and said, "You refuse to learn your lesson. Next time, it won't just be a matter of losing an arm." At that moment, a furious voice from behind interrupted. Kai-hun, what are you doing? The moment Victor Tong saw Hannah Vance, he cried out, "Hannah Vance!" Kai-hun was about to kill me. I turned to look at Hannah Vance and clapped my hands. Can't you see? I'm torturing him. Hannah Vance didn't have time to waste words with me and immediately ordered someone to take Victor Tong to the hospital. Go apologize to Victor Tong at the hospital. The Victor family and the Ha family have a decent relationship, and they also have business collaborations. Victor Tong is the darling of the Victor family. If you injure him, the Victor family won't let it go. I looked at Hannah Vance with a gaze that suggested she was foolish. Does he deserve it? After saying that, I turned to leave. Stop. Hannah Vance grabbed my arm. A glint of green light flashed in my eyes. I shook her hand off. Don't touch me. Do you think I'm still the defeated one who endures everything like a meek little lamb as before? Nearby, Talia gasped. Hannah Vance exuded a chilling aura. Kai-hun, do you want to die? If you want to die, I can help you. I scoffed. You can try. Hannah Vance radiated an indescribable danger. Don't think that because you have Aloy backing you, I won't dare to touch you. What? Is someone backing me? Are you jealous? Hannah Vance was at a loss for words. She didn't like it. What was I jealous of? She just felt very uncomfortable inside. Kai-hun, if you want to put on a show of desperation in front of me, I advise you to give up that idea. I shot her a glance. Put on a show of desperation? You think you're some kind of treasure that everyone loves. After saying that, I confidently turned to leave. Hannah Vance coldly watched my retreating figure. Once I was gone, Talia dared to approach Hannah Vance. Is this still the Kai-hun who loved you to death before? Did someone possess him or something? Hannah Vance couldn't understand either. In just a few short days, how had this man changed so much? I left Hati for the hotel. Not long after, I received a call from Hannah. Hannah is Hannah Vance's younger sister, cheerful and charming, warm-hearted and generous, with a beautiful smile. Since I would soon be leaving the capital, I wanted to thank her a bit before I went, so I agreed. Upon arriving at the shopping mall, I took Hannah straight to the Hermes counter that she loved the most. Half an hour later, Hannah emerged from the Hermes store, holding a diamond-studded crocodile bag that she had always wanted but never managed to buy, looking dazed. Brother Kai-hun, are you really giving me this bag? I smiled and nodded. Next month is your birthday. Consider this an early birthday gift for me. Brother Kai-hun, you're so kind. But where did you get so much money? It's my savings from before. Brother Kai-hun, you've regained your memory, haven't you? Yeah, no wonder you've been acting so strangely these past 2 days, completely like a different person. So it turns out you've regained your memory. Brother Kai-hun, being this rich, you must be the son of a billionaire, right? No, just drop the son part. I volunteer to be your kept woman. For the entire afternoon, Hannah and I swept through all the luxury brand counters in the shopping mall. In the evening, after finishing dinner, Hannah took her spoils home while I returned to the hotel. Shortly after arriving at the hotel, I received a call from Hannah. As soon as I answered, a strange male voice came through. Is this Hannah's brother-in-law? You have half an hour to come to the Van Ken Villa Otherwise, you can prepare to arrange Hannah's funeral. Fine. The Van Ken Villa. At this moment, Hannah was tied up, sitting on the sofa, her mouth taped shut. Two black-clad bodyguards stood on either side, keeping a close eye on her. The man hung up the phone and turned to the two bodyguards. Aren't you going to untie Miss Talia? As soon as her hands were freed, Hannah tore the tape off her mouth and jumped up. Kion, are you crazy? You dare to kidnap me too. The three most powerful families in the capital, besides the Ha family, are the Kion family and the De family. Although the Kion family isn't close to the Ha family, they do have some connections. Miss, don't move. I won't harm you. I only invited you here to lure Kai Hun to come himself. Hannah's heart raced. She had just learned that I had injured Victor Tong's face and disabled one of his arms. No, Kai Hun must not come. Hannah tried to rush to grab the phone, but was stopped by the two bodyguards. Kion, I warn you, Kai Hun and my sister are not divorced yet. If you dare to touch him, my sister won't let you off. Kion sneered. Miss, don't scare anyone. I heard that Hannah Vance has no feelings for Kai Hun at all. They've been married for 2 years, and she hasn't even glanced at him once. And she dares to bully my Victor Tong. Today, I must teach this ignorant fool a lesson. Hannah gritted her teeth in anger, grabbing the cup on the tea table and throwing it at Kion. You're talking nonsense. My brother-in-law and my sister have a great relationship. If you touch a hair on him, my sister will skin you alive. Kion dodged the cup and sat down on the single chair. Miss, I'm not easily frightened. Everyone in the circle knows that Hannah Vance treats Kai Hun like trash. How could she possibly get angry with me over him? A glint of green light flashed in Kion's eyes. He crippled one of Victor Tong's hands, so I will cripple both of his. He pointed at a few other bodyguards. You guys go guard the door. When he arrives, make him crawl in here. You bastard. I'll fight you to the death. However, before she could reach him, she was restrained by the bodyguards. Miss, I don't want to hurt you, but if you keep being unreasonable, don't blame me for being rude. Just as Kion finished speaking, a loud screech of brakes echoed from outside. Oh, that was quick. Hannah anxiously paced back and forth, silently praying that the person arriving was her sister and not Kai Hun. When they tied her up and put her in the car, she had sent a message for help to Hannah Vance. She wondered if her sister had seen it. Kion propped his feet up, looking towards the living room door. However, moments later, a horrifying scream from the bodyguards rang out. Kion was taken aback. Could it be that the person arriving was not Kai Hun? Just as he was thinking this, the screams abruptly stopped. In the next moment, I appeared at the door, fiddling with the baton I had just snatched from a bodyguard, my demeanor calm. Kion's eyes widened in shock. The person standing at the door exuded a suffocating aura. It was Kai Hun. As soon as Hannah saw me, she hurriedly shouted, Kai Hun, you should leave quickly. Don't worry about me. They won't dare to do anything to me. Kion snapped back to reality, telling the bodyguard beside him, gag her. Before he could finish his sentence, a cold gust of wind rushed in. Kion only saw a dark shadow flash before him, followed by 2 dull thuds. Hannah, who had just been worried about me, saw me effortlessly take down the 2 bodyguards who were restraining her. I struck one bodyguard on the head with the baton, while the other was kicked away, both crashing heavily to the ground without even a chance to scream. Realizing the situation was not good, Kion shouted towards the door, Where are the others? Where are the others? I laughed. If you're calling for the dozen people outside, I advise you not to waste your breath. Kion took a cold breath, staring at me in disbelief. In front of him, 2 highly skilled professional bodyguards had been taken down by me so quickly, not even lasting 10 minutes. How could this person be so strong? My expression was cold, my dark eyes filled with killing intent. My people also felt they were playing with fire. Kion was paralyzed under my gaze, my aura nearly suffocating him. But if he couldn't avenge Victor Tong, how could he ever face him again? Therefore, Kion took a gamble. Kai Hun, since you've injured Victor Tong's face and hands, if you now disfigure yourself and cripple both your hands, I will let you all leave. The corner of my mouth curled up. That's the funniest joke I've ever heard. Hannah quickly pulled my hand. Kai Hun, let's go. Don't pay attention to him. I nodded, looking at Hannah. Hannah, wait for me outside. Hannah looked at me worriedly. Kai Hun, my voice was unusually gentle. Be good. Listen to me. Hannah nodded. All right then. As soon as Hannah stepped out of the living room, She immediately heard Kion's agonizing screams from inside. The sound frightened her, and just as she was about to turn back to see what was happening, she saw me coming out. Kai-hun! She rushed over to grab my hand. Are you okay? I looked at Hannah. I'm fine. Hannah shook her head, and when she saw that I had no injuries from head to toe, she felt relieved. Following me out of the courtyard, Hannah saw more than a dozen bodyguards lying on the ground, and she covered her mouth, not daring to breathe loudly. Did Kai-hun take care of all these people? Hannah looked at me with admiration, giving me a thumbs up. Kai-hun, what color do you like? I'll blow you a rainbow branch. I chuckled, about to say something when I saw a black Maybach and a silver Bentley driving up at the same time. It was Hannah's sisters. She recognized one of the cars, jumped up, and shouted, I'm over here. Both cars stopped in front of us simultaneously. Soon after, the door of the Bentley opened, and a tall woman stepped out. Hannah Vance glanced at Hannah, who was hopping around joyfully like a kangaroo, showing no signs of being bullied, then turned her gaze to me. What are you doing here? Her eyes flicked over to see the brightly lit villa behind me, with two bodyguards lying unconscious at the entrance. I grinned mischievously. I did it. Someone called to say that if I didn't come, I should prepare for Hannah's funeral. Hannah grabbed Hannah Vance's hand. Sister, you have to thank my brother-in-law properly. If he hadn't come in time to save me, I would have been in danger today. I waved my hand. No need to thank me. They were originally targeting me. Just as I finished speaking, the person in the Maybach also got out of the car. It was a woman who seemed to be the same age as Hannah Vance, very beautiful. Nora Snow. Hannah and Kion were both shocked. Nora Snow looked at Hannah and me, giving a slight nod. Hannah haughtily huffed. Born of the same father, this older sister Nora Snow looks much better than Kion. Nora Snow glanced at the unconscious bodyguards at the door, coldly saying, this idiot who doesn't know the heights of heaven and depths of the earth dared to kidnap Hannah Vance's sister. He truly sought his own death. Nora Snow's assistant quickly ran into the house. Miss, second young master. The second young master has had his left pinky finger cut off and has fainted. Nora Snow's expression changed slightly. Second young master? Hannah Vance was also stunned, instinctively looking at me. Nora Snow looked at me too. Did you do it? I faced her, my tone particularly arrogant. Yes, I did. Cutting off one of his fingers was quite merciful.